All right, everybody, welcome to the Serve Brew. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited. We have a really unique podcast and YouTube episode coming your way. Um, we are going to talk with the Columbus Dream Center and Rock City Church's outreach gurus. They're incredible. If you don't know Rock City Church or the Columbus Dream Center, you have got to get to know these guys. I've had the privilege and honor of knowing them through different ways. They've sent teams to the Birmingham Dream Center. I got to interview Pastor Chad a while back, and just some of the most creative outreach ideas and just such thoughtfulness is put into the culture and everything that they do. So over the years, just watch them grow, and they're just taking Ohio by storm. It's incredible. And of course, we love Abby Marrah. She helps run the Dream Center. They're part of our network, and yeah, just some great friends. So today, I have Miss kellybroeg and Jake Marrah, who is my girl Abby's husband. Yay! Welcome to the show, you guys.
Hey, we are so excited to be here. Thanks for having us, Tori.
Heck yeah. Thank y'all so much for agreeing to jump on today. I am really stoked to get to talk with you. So the idea of the show came about because we were talking on our Serve Your City Facebook group. If you guys are not part of that, I'll put a link to it in the show notes, and you can ask to join our closed Facebook group for outreach leaders. But we were talking all things back to school. How are you guys serving? 2020 is a lot different for students and families, and with schools, a lot of them being online. How are we as churches going to help our community? And some different needs have arose, and Kelly jumped on and shared an incredible idea that they're doing there in Columbus, and they put together some great resources, and they're here to share about all of that, the ins and outs, the how-tos of this brilliant idea. So I'm going to keep you on a cliffhanger for a minute. But first, I want to ask Kelly and Jake just to share a little bit about yourselves and your roles, and then give us a snapshot of all the things that you guys do on a regular basis through the Dream Center and Rock City Outreach, what that's looked like in the past and what it's looking like now.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. Absolutely. Thanks again, Tori. Like I said, we are just so happy to just be on this channel today. I mean, it's just truly just a gift to do what we get to do every day. But I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name's Kelly. I have the honor of being our local outreach and prison campus coordinator at Rock City Church. And it's so much fun to get to do what I do. So every year we have lots of different annual events that I get to oversee. So we do a Night to Shine event through the Tim Tebow Foundation. We do a big teacher appreciation event for all Columbus City school teachers. So we're 6,000 teachers. We obviously participate in the ARC Network Serve Day, which is one of our favorite events throughout the year. And then we do a big shoe give as well. So I get to oversee all those events. I get to work with all of our different prison campuses. And then, of course, I get to work alongside Jake as well with our outreach arm, which is the Columbus Dream Center.
So my name is Jake, and I'm the family outreach pastor at the Dream Center. The Dream Center has two departments. We have an in-house department, which serves meals out of our building, and then the family outreach department, which goes to children in our city, mostly through schools and apartment complexes, and serves them. And so family outreach is what I oversee. Before COVID, what that looked like was an after-school program. We had a Saturday morning ministry for elementary kids where we played games and gave lunches and taught the Bible. But since COVID, our roles have greatly changed. We have gone from just being in 2 locations with family outreach at the beginning of March to mid-March, switching to 15 different sites that we've gone into to serve meals. And so on an annual basis, the family outreach department of the Dream Center might serve 10,000 meals. And we've been doing that about every 2 weeks since COVID hit. So our focus has greatly shifted. It's still on families and kids, but just the ways in which we're serving them is really changed.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. You guys do so much. And the family value, I can just see woven throughout everything that you guys do. All the social media posts, like that is just such a central value that you guys seem to communicate so well. And it exudes like so much joy when I look at the stuff that you guys are sharing and the stories and the lives being touched. So that's incredible. Thank y'all for all you do. Okay, so there's so much I want to unpack about what y'all do on a daily basis, but today we're going to focus on this one specific idea, which is the Learning Extension Center. Such a powerful thing that you guys are doing, but we're going to get into some of the how-tos. But before that, I want you guys to break down what this idea is, how it came to be. Kelly, you shared in the Facebook group about some of the needs that you guys saw and what this meant for some of the community you're serving. And you guys saw that need and came up with this brilliant idea to really step in and make a difference. So break that down for us, introduce that thought, and let us know the ins and outs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so our local school district announced that they would be all virtual. They'd have no in-class schooling for the first quarter at least. And so our lead pastors, Pastor Chad and Katie, initiated a conversation with the outreach team and with the youth team. And our pastor's heart, it really is for outreach. They bleed outreach. And so they took this upon themselves to start a conversation with us and say, we need to respond to this, to students being all virtual. You know, they're still going to need meals, and they're still going to need tutoring help, and they're going to need internet. So what can we do about this? And so they started that conversation, and within a week, I was invited by a pastor on the west side of Columbus into a Zoom call. And I didn't know much about what the Zoom call was going to be, but it turned out that Columbus City Schools Chief Engagement Officer was on the call, along with 30 other pastors from the west side of Columbus. And so the school district's Chief Engagement Officer, she shared this idea of learning extension centers. So what that is simply a safe space for students to come and to get access to free internet, to meals, and tutoring help. And so she shared that idea, and I took it back to the team with Rock City, and we started to put some plans on paper and just decided to run with it. You know, we saw this as an opportunity, not just for our organization to serve students and to open up a learning extension center, but really for the bride of Christ to unify and to be the capital C church. You know, local churches all can host their own LEC, but when the city looks back and says, how did we make it through that time, they'll be able to see churches stepped up and supported our students and schools. And so the Dream Center, we in Rock City just loved this idea of learning extension centers and thought, well, we'll open up, we're committing to 20 across the city, and that's going to be through other church partnerships and through apartment complexes. But we've also put together a resource guide that we can share with churches across the city. So again, this will be about the big C, not just about our church. You know, we want to see learning extension centers pop up for every student in Columbus.
I would say too, you know, we continue as a church, as Rock City Church, our lead pastor, Pastor Chad, continues to just bring this news to our church and say, you know, we've never seen a crisis bigger than this right now. So how can we come together as the Big C Church? How can we come together as a community and really go beyond our walls and love people well in this season and truly meet the need? And so I think that's what the most beautiful part about these learning extension centers is. It's truly finding a need and meeting it, just like what we do every day, but we're doing it in a bigger scale this time.
Oh
so
my gosh.
we really do feel like this might be like one of the biggest things that we do a lot of big things, but we do think this coming alongside schools and students it's just a beautiful thing to do right now.
Yes. Wow. And schools, oh my gosh, like it's not just students that you're reaching, there's families and generations and siblings and staff, and it's the center of a city. I think like a lot of people I talk to, like that's where you start all the time. You start in the school if you want to reach the city. So that's incredible. I love the unity of it, and I love how the school knew to seek churches out, and that to me speaks of the faithfulness that you guys have put in the foundation you have laid, the reputation that goes before you in the city, because they knew they could call on you and you'd step up. So that is so cool and so encouraging, just to see that at some point people are going to seek out what you're doing if you're faithful and your heart is pure. So that's incredible that you guys are in that position. Okay, so we have a little bit of the heart figured out and the why, how it came to be. And I love, Kelly, what you shared in the Facebook group just about what this means for certain communities, what schools being online really means. Will you expand on what you said in there about the students who would just may not have access to the internet like they needed to, or the meals, etc.? Like, what does that reality look like for those students day to day if these learning extension centers weren't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And Jake can kind of fill in there. But I think, you know, what we've seen over the last 4 months, 5 months, however long COVID's been at this point, is we see the needs every single day as we go into these neighborhoods. And these neighborhoods that we're serving are the kids that go to the school system that is now all virtual, right? So we see every day, you know, where there's gaps and where we need to fill those gaps. And so what these learning extensions do is they don't replace school. They aren't replacing teachers by any means. We do not, and we want to make that very clear. We are not replacing a school or a teacher. We are merely just coming in and we're filling a gap, which is where internet might not be provided, a meal might not be provided at home. It might be kind of loud and noisy in these home environments. So this is going to be a place where students can come. There's going to be someone there to love them, to help them with homework, to feed them, both spiritually and also physically, and then also provide internet, because most of the students in Columbus City schools will be given a Chromebook to do all of their online learning. And so that's why the internet is so valuable, and that's why this location is so valuable, is it then connects that dot of the Chromebook to the internet where students can then engage in work. I don't know, do you have anything else you want to add on that, Jake?
Yeah, as Kelly said, we're just supporting the families and the teachers. The teachers have the kids' best interest, you know, in their heart and in their mind. And I believe most parents do too, you know, and parents want their students to succeed. I mean, what good parent doesn't have that desire, you know? But we've also seen over the last couple of months, we've gone into neighborhoods where there's 8 or 9 kids living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And if they're trying to find a quiet space to study, how are they going to do that, you know, with 7 siblings running around? And again, it's not that the parent doesn't want to support the kid and have them succeed, but what can we do to be the village to come around the parent and to come around the teachers who, again, are fighting for these students? How can we support them and lift them up and say, hey, mom, your child needs some time to get away in a quieter environment and to have more space and to have internet and to have the food that they need, you know, to be mentally and physically ready to go. How can we fill that gap and meet that need? And so again, this really is just supporting parents and teachers.
Yeah.
Wow, it's such a brilliant plan. It's so practical. And I know if it was me, I grew up homeschooled, but at the same time, I cannot imagine being thrown into being a homeschool mom all of a sudden, kids all over the place. It's just, you're already taxed. It's been such a tough season as a family. And then you're having to figure out how to homeschool your kids amidst all your other struggles. So this is just such a practical thing. And I think it's so valuable because you guys are getting such meaningful time with these students and these families. Like, that to me is so cool when you have such an ability to have personal touch. And I just know through Dream Center experience, the outreaches that we did that were consistent, where I was seeing the same faces every single day, twice a week, whatever, I was able to pick up on the small little steps that were being taken forward, those small little moments of progress, or, oh, wow, that person said hello, whereas yesterday they were, you know, against saying hello, they were hiding in the background. So I just think it's such a beautiful opportunity to be able to walk with people in the little ordinary small steps and see transformation that way. So it's so cool. Sorry, that was kind of random, but it just made me think about it. I was like, this is such a beautiful thing.
You're right. You touched on a really important word, which is consistency. And so we know how important consistency is in the lives of any children. And so to provide a consistent place to come and to give this resource, it's life-changing in that way.
It's all relationship. That is so cool. Okay, so love the vision. Let's get into some of the practical how-tos. The resource that you guys created that I've mentioned, everybody's like, I want to see this. Where is it? I'm gonna send the link. It's gonna be cool. But I wanted you guys to, I think it's so thorough, so you can look at it and run. It's perfect. But I really wanted to get you guys to give some narrative on it, maybe expand on some things, break it down a little bit more. If a church or dream center wants to figure this out, where do they start? Let's go through the whole thing if y'all are cool with it.
Yeah, for sure. Would you like us to share the screen with that resource?
Sure, that'd be great. Our podcast listeners might not be able to see it, but they can go online and check it
Okay.
out. Maybe we should mention the link name now. If you're on the podcast and you want to hop over to it, it's forcolumbusstudents.com/resources. Is that right? Okay.
Correct.
And it's the resource guide. So if you're listening on the podcast, you can hop in and follow along or find that later. But yeah, go ahead.
I've only done a screen share once, so I need to find it.
Yeah. I don't remember either. That's fun.
Oh, no worries.
Oh, here
And this is live now too. So if anyone's wondering if, when will it be live? It's all live on this website right now. So it's the forcolumbusstudents.com.
Perfect. And you guys have some great other resources on there too. Like if people are local in the area, how they can get involved, COVID safety guidelines, all kinds of cool stuff. Here we go. You figured it out. Great job. Hey, side note, do you guys have, I feel like there's some music playing. Are y'all, do y'all have any worship happening in the background?
You have your music?
I don't think it's me.
Anything?
Yeah, I think it's gone now. It was beautiful. It's like subtle ambiance.
I can't hear
Oh no,
anything.
I can still hear it.
I hear it.
Interesting.
Do you have your music on?
Maybe it does. Well, now you can see what I'm listening to.
Oh, wow.
It's beautiful
Sorry
though.
about
It was worship though. Like it's very ambiance. Like it sounded backgroundy. That's great. It could have been something different though. Like I'm glad you have holy taste there, Jake.
Well, we're worshiping before this call. We wanted to make sure it's glorifying the gods.
Oh, y'all are so great.
So yeah, here's the resource guide, and I'll just walk through it briefly for those listening on the podcast. But the first page just simply says that our model with Rock City for a learning extension center is not the model. You need to find out what works within your community and what the needs are and how you can meet those. I think the biggest thing that we found when presenting this idea throughout our city is many pastors and leaders of organizations respond to us and say, does it have to be this day? Does it have to be this time? Do you need to provide food? And our response is no to all of those things. Mm-hmm. You know, we've come up with a model that we think is meeting the needs within the communities we're serving. And we want you to be able to do the same and feel empowered, to do the same. So this first page is simply helping you identify what the needs are and how you can meet those needs. And so there's 3 A words that we came up with: ask, align, and act. So ask and find out what the needs are, align your response with what the need is, and then act upon that response that you've come up with. So I'll allow you to read through that more on your own. But I think when we determined what our model would look like, here's some of the critical questions that we asked. What is your capacity? So your facility needs the 6 feet for social distancing. And so what we did is we visited all of the sites that we're going to be in and measured the room that's dedicated to the LEC and then just divided it by 36. So that gives you the 6-foot bubble. So determine first how many kids you can serve. For volunteers, we wanted to have a 1-to-5 ratio of volunteers to students. And so if we can serve 30 students, then we'd want to have that 1-to-5 ratio in place, and that determines the number of volunteers we need. And then next is the schedule. So once you've decided the space and the volunteers needed, then you need to set how often you're going to do this. And I've seen pastors that have decided to do Monday through Friday all day long from 8 to 5. They're going to open their building, which is tremendous. But I know that that's not realistic for many churches. And so what I would ask is, what are you currently doing within your church, and how can you just go one step beyond that? How can your capacity for ministry grow, just one step? And so if that looks like opening up your building for one day for 2 hours, great. You are serving your students in your city in that way. Mm-hmm. If you can go beyond that, great. But do not feel like obligated to become the school. You don't have to become school for these kids. You are support for the school. And so what's your capacity and how can you support? Next is determining the schedule. So the days open for students, hours of operation, days and times for cleaning. We have decided our schedule is going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday with students, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be our days for preparation and for cleaning. And then just determine what your start date is and your end date. So for us, we just followed the school calendar with that one and said, we're going to start the second week of school and go until the last day of school for the first semester. So, do you want to hit some of the rest of this?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So the other things, obviously this is all happening because of COVID, right? So we certainly have to have COVID protocols in place. So things that we're doing is, people will have to wear a mask while they're on site. We will be cleaning in between student groups that come in. So we've got the student group that will come in from 1 to 4, and then another student group that comes in 5 to 8. So we'll make sure that cleaning's happening in between that. We're going to create like a cubby system for each student that's there so that their belongings can stay together in a certain place. We'll have hand sanitizer, be social distance, so on and so forth. So anyway, we've just really taken what we feel are the most important pieces, and we've consulted with local government and what the schools are doing as far as COVID protocols, and really just following those protocols as we walk forward into these. But I think that just varies per location and what's happening in your state and what's in your city. So obviously the next important thing is, what are your staff roles? So the way that we've really set this up is kind of where we've got a director role, because we are doing 20 sites total. So I should say that. So we are starting out with 20 locations, and we have 5 to 10 other locations that are kind of waitlisted right now that also want to come on board with us. But we're starting with 20. We want to do these 20 really well. And from there, we established what these staff roles would be. So we've kind of got a director role. We've got regional director roles under that. And then under each director, we have 2 coordinators. And under each coordinator, then we've got 5 site leaders. So each coordinator is overseeing 5 different sites. And we are hiring 20 positions for the site leader role. So we are holding that as a very serious role. It's a part-time seasonal role, but that site leader is responsible for maintaining the site, the volunteers, the students, so on and so forth. And then under that site leader role, we're going to have anywhere from probably 4 to 6 volunteers under each site. Those volunteer roles then would be like a check-in person, a meal lead person, a tutor, a tech person. So we've got different roles and have kind of created what we think will work best for the site. So that's the direction that we're moving in as of right now.
Yeah, as far as the staff roles, if you're a local church, even if you have 50 people at your church, and you're maybe a bivocational pastor, that you might be the site leader for this as well. Yeah. And again, it's what's your capacity? If your capacity is I can preach on Sundays and lead this Bible study on Wednesdays and then open up my building on Thursday for 2 hours for students, then great, and you'll be the site leader and overseeing these other volunteer roles. Yeah. And I know for many churches, people will be wearing multiple hats. And yeah. I think even as we get off the ground, 20 sites, we're asking for 600 volunteers a week, 200 a day. And so as we grow that volunteer base, there's probably going to be someone who's a meal lead and a check-in lead, in the same time. But I'd love to go through these volunteer roles too. The meal lead is going to be providing the food and responsible for preparing and serving the food in a safe way. The check-in lead, that's going to be our high relational volunteer, the one who is able, to connect with the parents and the students before they even get to our door. Taking temperature checks, that's going to be important, but more so, how are you doing so far? We want to gauge the temperature of not just, your body, but your emotions before you walk in. So check-in lead, we're going to find people who are highly relational and put them in that role. Tutor lead, we've reached out to schools with, the local schools around the Learning Extension Center and asked teachers if you can come be a part of this, since you'll be serving some of your students and connecting with them. Obviously, they have a big role to play in this while doing virtual teaching, but they can also be on site and help with the tutoring. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And then tech lead is just someone who's knowledgeable about the equipment and can help with Chromebooks and internet and those sort of things.
I'm glad that Jake stepped in there, because I feel like we are doing this at a very large scale, but you don't have to do it at a large scale. So please just rest assured to the person that's like, wow, that feels like a lot. It doesn't have to be that big.
Right.
We have the capacity to do it, so we're going to do it. But just remember that. I know we've said it like 3 times, but I just really want the listener that's on the other end that just feels like, wow, that's a lot. No, you can do this, and it can be one site, and you can make a difference in that one site.
Yep.
I love that too. I was going to say something on that, Kelly. I was like, man, I'm so glad that you thought of that to help contextualize it. And this is such a scalable thing. And y'all have been so great helping everybody walk through, what does this mean for me? And considering there are variables, that's great. Y'all are so cool, so thoughtful. I love it.
Do you want to you're going to touch on the budget?
Yeah, go through the budget. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we also just came up with a list of things that we factor into the budget. And so meals, we have that within our budget, but we're hoping to partner with our local Hunger Alliance in Ohio, because they provide meals for children 0 to 18 for free. And so we've worked it into our budget because some sites don't qualify for the Hunger Alliance. So we'll have to provide some of those, but majority of those meals will be paid for and provided by our Hunger Alliance. First aid kits will be important, along with thermometers, background checks and abuse awareness training, employed staff, tablets for each student. Many schools are providing those, so I would reach out to your local school district to see what they're giving. And then PPE and internet and filtering system. And for many locations that we've gone to, they have Wi-Fi, but they just need to be upgraded. So what we've committed to is if a local church reaches out to us and says, I want to be a Dream Center LEC, then we'll say, great, here's what you need. You need a space where you can socially distance, and you need internet. And they say, well, I have internet that's got the capacity for 3 or 4 devices, and we'll say, all right, you pay for the 3 or 4 and we'll pay for the bonus, the extra, so that all 20 kids can get that. And then the last page is simply resources of what are we using to onboard volunteers. Your church may or may not already have this, but we're using Airtable for our student and volunteer registration forms. Brushfire is a great one, especially if you are operating just out of one location and you are just one church that wants to open up your doors. Brushfire is free. You can create events for open signups, and so you could have students or volunteers come and sign up on that. Church Community Builder, or CCB, is how we're creating our schedules. Planning Center is another great resource. We're doing background checks through Protect My Ministry and Checker, and then abuse awareness training is ministrysafe.com. Again, your church may or may not already have all of this stuff. We simply listed it to say what we have found to be useful and what we're going to be using during this time.
Wow. Like I said, so thorough and brilliant. Like, you guys really thought through every single detail. Thank you for that, for sharing all of that. I feel like everybody's probably got some questions and their mind is just racing. What does that look like for me? I have some questions. One is, when you guys do student applications, how are you vetting through who is approved to come? Is it first come, first serve? Are there any requirements on that side of things?
So I'll start if you want. Okay. So one thing too that we didn't mention is we did something else that we built for this process was an admin team. So Abby Marrah actually is just killing it in that area. She's just brought a whole team of about 12 to 15 people on board with her. And so each one of those people are looking after volunteer signups, student signups, anyone that's been waitlisted, stuff like that. So as far as student signups go, though, we did put a form out there for anyone that wanted to know like ahead of time, like when is the day the enrollment's going to happen. We haven't opened up student enrollment yet. So we actually are opening that up tomorrow. But in the meantime, we have a list of students that have come on board and said, hey, we're interested in, let us know when you open that enrollment.
Okay, that's awesome. Oh, Abby's the best. She's a genius. Love her so much. That's cool. Okay, I have another question. If a church is portable and they don't have a campus yet, they don't have a building, but they want to do something like this, do you guys recommend hitting up different other locations or people they could seek out to partner with for a building? Maybe it's another local church, or do you guys have any ideas on that, locations they could check out? And what does insurance look like on all this? Sorry, I'm getting in the weeds.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
I'll mention one more thing about the student sign up and then answer that one too. We are identifying what our capacity is for students at each site. So if it's 15, then the first 15 that sign up have their spot. So it's good to go. And then we'll have a wait list for 16 through however many. And then for those 15, we'll have a family orientation where we go over the disciplinary guidelines and the expectations for them. Expectations for parents is really important too. We end at 4 o'clock and we really need you to pick your student up at 4 o'clock so we can clean for the next group, So we'll have a family orientation for those 15 and then reach out to everybody else beyond that and say, hey, you're on the wait list.
Can I say one thing really quick?
Yeah.
So one other thing, I'm glad that you said that number because I don't know if we've touched on this yet. These sites aren't giant sites. So we aren't putting hundreds of kids in each one of these sites because of social distancing. So they're truly, these sites are about, in each time frame, 15 to 30 kids max. So, or students max. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head too. Like, it's not like we're welcoming hundreds of kids into these sites because we want people to be safe. We want our volunteers to be safe and we want the students to be safe. So I'm glad that you said that, Jake.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as mobile churches, I think 14 out of our 20 are actually local apartment complexes. So a lot of apartment complexes, you might check with your Metropolitan Housing Authority, which is who we're going through. They have community centers and spaces that are available. And so we've just begun reaching out to a lot of the apartment managers and saying, do you guys have a space? We simply want to serve your students and we're going to do it in a safe way, And so we've sent them over our COVID guidelines and how we're going to provide meals and the cost it's going to be for the, apartment complex, which is next to nothing, And so that's been our approach is going out into the neighborhoods. And the beautiful thing about that is the kids already live there. So you don't have to worry about transportation and busing. The kids can just walk to the community center. So that's one thing we've done.
And the reason a lot of that, do you want to touch on those pre-established? So essentially, So a lot of these neighborhood complexes, Jake and Abby did an amazing job at the beginning of COVID and establishing what the need was in our community, and it was feeding. So that's where this birth of going into these apartment complexes really started. So we've, in some of these, and not all of them, in some of these apartment complexes, we've been going into them for 4 or 5 months. So we already have established relationships with a lot of these students, but we also are doing that it's a new touch in a lot of locations as well. So if you're the person out there that's feeling like, wow, that feels like a lot and it's really overwhelming, people in these complexes and these property managers have really been very willing to work with us. And I think they're excited and happy that the community wants to come in and help make their communities better. So not to go so deep into that, but I think it's important for people to understand it's a simple ask, but it's very, very impactful to go to the students instead of them making them come to us.
Man, I'm so glad that that question popped in my head because I hadn't even thought of it before. But the answer that you guys gave was so creative, and I feel like it just gave a lot of people hope who were probably already disqualifying themselves. We don't have a building, we don't have a facility, that's way down the road. No, go where they are. Yes, a lot of those places have rec centers, and I love the idea of being on site where the kids are. And I mean, those complexes, I've been in a lot of different housing authorities, and it can be chaos when the kids are running around and they don't have a structure, and kids need order no matter where they are. So for you guys to come in and just offer that for free, what a blessing that is. That's genius. Y'all are so brilliant, man. I love it. Okay, I have one more practical question, and this may be, you guys kind of already covered the background check thing. Obviously, safety is really important. What are y'all's plans for security stuff? Do you have any crossover of, I know like churches I've been part of, when you're in the kids ministry, you go through the background check, you go through a training, there's a lot of systems that are in place. And with this nature, what do you guys have crossover systems from your kids' church into the training for volunteers, making sure the wrong parent doesn't pick up the wrong kid, any of that stuff? Could y'all elaborate on that? Because it's not something light. I know I've sat through so many like abuse training webinars, and it's like, I don't want to do this. I'm scared I'm going to say something wrong and go to jail and I'm going to hurt somebody. But it's so important, and it makes everybody feel comfortable and safe. And I just want to make sure that people who are considering doing this serve understand the weight of that side of it and the importance of doing that right, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And I think many of those answers that you just, or the questions that you just asked, can be answered within our application for volunteers and students. So we've covered a lot of those things in the application. For example, who can pick up the kids? Our student application is going to have the name of the parent and then 3 people who are authorized to pick up. And so we'll have that printed out at each site. And so when people come to pick up the students, we'll be able to say, you know, you're on the list or you're not. And if you're on the list, we need proof of ID or something like that. So once that goes live, if you're a church or organization listening to this, I would encourage you to go check out the student registration and the parent registration, because those 2 things really cover a lot of our safety measures that we've taken.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I knew you guys had thought of it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you guys have access to everything, every resource that we are using is all on that website. So it just kind of play around with it a little bit, but that's where you're going to find, and you can use anything that we have. It's all there to use.
That's awesome. You guys took so much time not only building this, but thinking about what does that mean for others and translating it and just sharing everything so generously. So thank you for that. Couple quick questions to wrap it up. Do you guys have any other notes or things that you want to make sure to share with people, churches, dream centers who want to get involved with this? Any final notes or tips?
I thought of one more thing about your question of, you know, if churches are mobile or they don't have a facility. Again, going back to the unified bride and how this is all about the big C. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for a church that maybe in the suburbs and your local school district is still meeting and kids are going to class, to reach out to a church that's in an urban setting. And I'm saying that from Columbus's standpoint. We have a lot of suburbs around Columbus that are going back, and churches are reaching out and saying, how can I help the students that are in Columbus City schools and not going back? And so I think this is a great opportunity for those suburban churches to reach out to an urban church and say, you have the space and we have the people and the resource. Let's unite and do this together. So that could be one opportunity. If you're like, man, I see this need, I just can't figure out how we can practically meet it. Maybe this is an opportunity for your church to respond, not just as your church, but with one other church or 2 other churches, and to say, we want to funnel volunteers to you. We want to help you with volunteer onboarding and safety and all those kind of things if you provide us your space. So 6 of our 20 sites our churches, and that's essentially what we've done is churches have said, we've got 30 people, and we can't pull this off, but we want to. And so Rock City has come along and said, all right, we'll meet in your building, if you give us the space. So that's one thing I'd add. Did you have anything else?
No, I'm so glad you said that, because I mean that's really truly, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It really is. It's about unity in a time where the world does not feel united, right? And it's making God above everything else. And I mean, that's what we keep saying, like, this isn't us, like, this is all God, and we just want the kingdom to be furthered during this, and that's the only goal, really.
Wow. Oh, that's such a profound thought. It's like it might not dawn on somebody to think that way. Oh, that doesn't affect our community. We're good. No, like this, you can get involved. You can do this and help others. Like, look around you. I love the way you guys think, the way you see, how generous your hearts are. You set such a great example for that. Okay, I forgot one question too. If a church is like, this is such a great idea, but school just started, we haven't done anything, this is like from scratch, do you think that they could still jump in maybe next semester? Or like what would you say to a church who's like, I need some time to get this together, but we really want to do it? Is it too late?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
How long have we been working on this?
Yeah, this has been the last 3-4 weeks for us, and we feel like we could use another 6 months to prep, but we have a month,
Cool. Did all the work for everybody else, so it's really just plug and play from here, so it should be good.
But I think if your church is able to, if you hear this a couple weeks from now and you're able to start in October or November and meet a need for 2 months, do it. Don't count yourself out because you didn't start when school started.
Yeah.
Amen. I love it. I knew you'd say that. I knew that would be the answer. That's why I had the boldness to ask it. I was like, there's hope in this one. Okay. Last question, and then I'll kind of wrap it up with you guys. But what long-term, what are your dreams for this specific ministry, for your city overall, but through this outreach effort, what are you hoping the outcome is in the long run? When you look back, like, when we did this together, this is what God did through it. And obviously he's going to do whatever he wants and your hearts are to him. But if you could put a dream to it, what would you say?
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay, cool. I would, I think just kind of going back to Rock City, like, the heart of our pastors and the heart of our church is for Columbus. That's constantly what our saying is it's for Columbus. And so I think this is in everything that we do in outreach and beyond our walls is for Columbus. And so this is just taking it to another level to come united with the community, with the church, and to be for Columbus. And that's why our whole logo on our website is for Columbus students, which is Columbus City students, but it's Columbus. It's all of Columbus, which means the suburbs too. And so I would just say, like, that's really the heart and vision, is like to continue to walk in opportunities like this that are for the city.
Yeah. In Acts 1:8, Jesus sends his disciples out into Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and then the ends of the earth. And the smallest region there is a city. And so we want to step up as a church and serve the city. We are serving our Jerusalem when we are for Columbus. Another thing that I would like to see come out of this is just an ongoing relationship with these families and with the schools that we support.
Yeah.
Many of the sites that we're going to are not going to allow us to share the gospel for these next couple of months. It's just going to be focused on supporting the schools and the families. But our hope is that come January or whenever kids go back to school, then we have these relationships with these kids that we can bring to our church and share Jesus with, and I'll add this too. It's not exactly an answer to your question, but I have had people reach out and say, hey, are we allowed to share the gospel with these students? And I think that for this season might be asking the wrong question, because the need there is students need support to have long-term success in their lives, right? That is the need. And so we are going to bring the presence of Jesus with us and worry about the present need of meeting kids where they're at. And then after this is over, we'll be able to openly share the gospel or invite them to church. But focus on the presence of God, you know, as more important than, well, can we do a Bible study or can we pray? I think that just the point that the church is responding to this, and the church is going to be the one that is helping kids. They're going to feel that love of God regardless of, you know, the curriculum that we share or what we teach or whatever. And those relationships that are built are going to far outlast COVID-19. And so that's our hope. I hope I didn't ramble too much, and I hope that kind of answered your question.
No, that's perfect. You guys both answered so beautifully. I love that, because God is so much bigger than, am I getting on a stage and preaching, or am I in a Bible study? His love and his presence, he works in mysterious ways, and it's not on us to figure out the outcome. That's his. You never know if you're planting a seed or watering it or picking the fruit. So I love that thought, and I'm glad that you said it that way, for people to be able to think about. So I'm gonna ask you guys one more question, which is just, where can people find you? I know we've shared the website for this specific learning extension centers, but if they want to follow just Rock City and Columbus Dream Center, find you guys on social media, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the Columbus Dream Center, our handle on Instagram is CBUS Dream Center. And then for Rock City Church, our handle is Rock City Church. So pretty simple and straightforward. And then also, I was just going to add, like, if you guys have questions and you want to talk to either Jake or I or someone on our team, we would be more than happy to also to talk to you during this time. So if you want, Tori, you can put my email out there, and feel free to just, like, please, we want, again, this is beyond Columbus, and we want to come together. So don't hesitate. I mean, it is a really busy time, but we want to see this just go crazy and blow up across the nation. So don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Oh my gosh, y'all are so accessible and so just the kindest people ever. Thank you. Get ready for your inbox to flood. I'm just kidding. Hopefully it'll be.
I'll just pour them over. No, I'm just
kidding. There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and for all you've done. And I really believe this is going to inspire a lot of people and really just bless them, and cities and communities and lives and families are going to be changed through it. So thank y'all so much. And we'll link to everything. People can follow you guys, contact you, and we'll be praying for this incredible endeavor you guys are on. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, you guys have a great week. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Surf Brew. Bye.